So today, La Pravda.ch has the honor to be received by Sheikh Imran Hosein, a well-known Islamic scholar, author, and philosopher, specialized in Islamic eschatology, world politics, and economics. Sheikh Imran Hosein, my first question is related to the city of Geneva. Can you tell us something about the city where you lived in the 70s?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I was a student at the Alimuddin Institute of Islamic Studies, graduated in 1971, and my teacher Maulana Ansari ordered me when I returned to Trinidad to get a job and earn my own livelihood, and not to be dependent on any Muslim community for my livelihood. So when I returned to Trinidad, I applied to the Foreign Ministry for the job, and I was interviewed, and they said, yes, we'd like to have you in the Foreign Ministry, but they wanted me to go back to university to do international relations. I went back to the University of the West Indies and did a one-year course, postgraduate course, and came first in the class, and that got me a scholarship from the Swiss government to come to Geneva to study international relations at the Graduate Institute of International Studies in Geneva. This is the most famous institution in Europe for the study of international relations, most famous one. But I found the 1 year that I spent in Trinidad studying at the Institute of International Relations to have been a more exciting experience, because the professors I had out there in Trinidad were different from the ones here. These over here were more orthodox scholars, yeah, whereas those in Trinidad were daring and courageous thinkers, yeah. So I had an exciting 1 year in Trinidad at the Institute of International Relations. And then I came to Geneva and I was a bit disappointed. I chose a topic for my thesis on post-Caliphate Islam. And that, of course, was another problem because I did not know Islamic eschatology at that time. And if I had written and submitted that thesis today, it would have been an embarrassment for me. I remained in Geneva until 1979, and the thesis was largely written, but just a little bit left. And then time ran out and I had to return to Trinidad without having defended the thesis. But the years that I spent in Geneva were very enjoyable years. I enjoyed living in the city, and I made many, many friends over here. And it was a very enjoyable experience for me. I'm happy to be back in Geneva now for the first time in 33 years. And it appears as though I am deciding now to keep on visiting Geneva, since I don't need a visa to come.
In 2010, the Swiss Parliament ratified an agreement between the Swiss and the US government, allowing UBS, to the bank, to transmit to the US authorities information concerning thousands of American clients suspected of tax evasion. Was it a move done by Wall Street to marginalize the Swiss financial center?
Switzerland is famous in the banking world for its secrecy. That if you have a Swiss bank account, no one will ever know it. So all the blood money in the world, all the corrupt money in the world will flee to Switzerland, knowing that you're safe over here. Okay? But it was like apartheid. Apartheid could last only that long until it began to stink, become an embarrassment. And so it is possible that the Swiss agreed to the US request because of a state of increasing embarrassment. And in the same way that apartheid had to be dismantled, and the whole world applauded when it was dismantled, so too the Swiss had to step back down from the famous secrecy period in order to be able to save face. Maybe I believe this is why Switzerland agreed to the request for the United States.
What do you think of the nuclear agreement made between Iran and the US?
I have not seen the agreement. I don't know whether it has been published. But what I do know is that a deal has been made and that the nuclear issue is certainly not at the heart of the deal. No. Those who were negotiating on the part of the Zionist West had goals and objectives far beyond nuclear threats in their negotiations with Iran. Perhaps what they wanted to do was to try to embrace Iran with a Western embrace and eventually disengage Iran from its ties with Russia. If that was their objective, the Iranians have clearly identified themselves as not being prepared to allow themselves to enter into the Western embrace at the expense of Russia. Russia's agreement to start supplying the missile for which the Iranians have already paid.
Yeah.
Immediately the agreement was signed is an indication that Russia also is afraid that perhaps the Iranians might now to back off of the relationship with Russia. And by agreeing to deliver the weapons, the Russians were actually making an attempt to keep Iran within their orbit. Yeah. I don't think that the full story of what happened in the negotiations will ever be known. There are always some secret agreements, and we're not privy to them, the secret agreements. If there were any secret agreements, they'll be so dangerous that I don't dare to even speak about them in public. But I can anticipate what those secret agreements could have been.
In Europe, immigration is a major concern. Thousands of migrants are breaching the borders in order to get asylum. Most of them are heading to Germany. Not all refugees are Muslims, but do you think that it's a mistake for Muslims to flee to Europe, that it will generate only more hatred against Islam?
If they knew the Quran, they would know that the Quran has prohibited any kind of friendship and alliance with the Judeo-Christian alliance, which is at the heart of modern Western world. And they would then have sought refuge elsewhere than in Europe, Western Europe. But they don't know the Quran. None of them going to Russia. None of them going to Armenia or going to Bulgaria. No, we want to go to Paris, we want to go to Germany, we want to go to Britain. See? This is part of the brainwashing of the masses around the world. And don't blame me for that. Don't blame me for that. They don't know the Quran, and some of them don't care. So the fate which now awaits them, you can just guess. Their Islam will be lost. The children will be drinking wine and eating bacon and eggs for breakfast. Yeah.
Okay. And finally, I would like to know your opinion about the judicial persecution of the French intellectual Alain Soral, who, for instance, denounces the dominance of the pro-Israeli lobby in France.
All I know is he has a profile that is anti-Zionist, and I admire that profile, yes. And he made me well known in France. Yeah. And for that I'm grateful to Alain Soral. I've never met with him, and I was hoping that I would have met with him at a seminar here in Geneva, but unfortunately that did not happen. But there will be other visits to Geneva, and it should not be difficult for him to just drive over and come over and meet with me. I look forward to the day when I'll be able to meet with Alain Soral. I admire the anti-Zionist profile that he has. Okay?
Thank you very much
All right.
for the interview.